Hello, everyone. We have gone live a few minutes early here. I am with Vince today to watch the Rocket Lab presentation on their award of the SDA contract. So welcome back to the channel, Vince.
Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here.
So yeah, I jumped online a few minutes early because they already released some information as well as the presentation that they're going to be going over. So I'm just going to quickly go ahead and share a screen here. First of all, where is it? Yeah, so the contract is, and hey, Spielbar, nice to see you, and thanks everyone for joining. The contract is what we thought, and everyone was kind of speculating it would be, which was the SDA satellite constellation, or at least 18 of them. And see if we have any new details. This is the first time Rocket Lab will be a prime contractor on a constellation like this. So previously with the Global Star constellation, they were a subcontractor to MDA. And these are really expensive satellites because with the MDA contract, it was for 130 million, something like that. This 18 satellites, 500 million, like that's very expensive for each one. Do you have any thoughts on why they're so much more expensive, these SDA ones, Vince?
I honestly don't know, but because in the text they're saying that they're getting paid for developing and delivering the satellites. So it might be that it's some new technology, and then they're like getting paid for the R&D part of it. So maybe if they would have ordered like 180 satellites, then they would be a lot cheaper.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I guess I'm still interested. Do you think it's possible that they could subcontract any of this stuff out, or are they going to recognize like the full 500 million? I kind of hope they do it all themselves.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
Oh, and sorry to interrupt. By the way, Chris, I do have my beer here in my Rocket Lab mug. I don't know if you guys can see that, but
How did
anyway.
you get a Rocket Lab mug?
My girlfriend or fiance made it for me, actually. She does all these crafts and stuff, so she did the etching. She made me a few shirts as well too.
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Nothing goes together like drinking alcohol and watching financial contract discussions, I guess. I haven't actually read through all this yet. Anything else interesting here? The beginning of Rocket Lab's new era as a leading satellite prime. We've methodically executed on our strategy of developing and acquiring experienced teams. Exciting now to be delivering this capability for government commercial customers alike.
Did you say that they also released the presentation, or was
it? I was checking that out. That is, where is it? Here. So I think they'll be going over some of this today, and then usually they do Q&A on these things, so maybe we'll have that afterwards. But let's see what we have. I haven't looked at this either before going live. You got your Rocket Lab hat, Francisco. I haven't bought anything from their official store. I do mean to do that at some point. So yeah, this information here, other than the customer name, I don't think is too new. Tranche 2 transport layer, and we the internet 4K. Did I actually hit 4K yet, Martin? Last I saw, I was still a little short, but I'm sure I'll hit it soon. Confirms, yeah. So that stuff we've kind of seen. Okay, this looks interesting. Backbone structure. Oh, I think we're getting. We are getting the presentation coming on soon. Maybe I'll mute the music for now, but I will keep an eye on that. And then I think we also heard about their next mission coming up. Did you see this one, Vince?
Yeah, I saw that one also.
Okay, so looks like they will be attempting to recover this one as well, which I always like to see. And January 18th. I always have to do the math on what this is in my time zone.
Yeah, same here. I have to Google it. I think it's like 12 hours difference for me.
For
So
you?
it's 7 a.m. in the morning, probably the next day.
For you, that is?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're 5
I'm
hours ahead of me?
6 hours ahead of you, I think.
Okay. So for me, that's like 1 a.m. in the morning.
Ah.
Good chance I won't be live streaming this one, but I will definitely be looking forward to it. And
Did you see the Vulcan one today?
I did watch it. Yeah, I didn't see it live. I was thinking of staying up, but I was so tired last night. But it was really exciting. But did you see the news about the lunar lander and the anomalies it had?
I saw something, but I didn't connect it because, yeah. So I saw that there was some space anomaly, but I didn't know it was with the Vulcan.
Yeah, so the primary payload for this, the astrobiotic lunar lander, it's part of the Artemis program going to the moon. It lost a bunch of propellant and had an anomaly, and then it was facing the wrong way, so the solar panels were not, getting energy from the sun. It sounds like they kind of recovered communications with it and were able to reorient it properly, but it's already lost so much propellant that they probably won't be able to land on the moon like they were planning on. So that's disappointing, especially when you think about how, the rocket's fully expended. So all that went into this mission, and
But
they
was
won't be
it
able to.
a launch failure, or was it a satellite failure?
Sounds like it was a satellite failure, not the launcher. The rocket performed, properly and got it to its trajectory, and then they separated and went off. And at that point, the satellite had a failure. Some people were saying, maybe the vibrations or the effects of the launch were a little bit more severe than they were expecting because it's a first launch of a rocket. And usually on these first launches, you put a bunch of sensors to test things out and don't have a real payload like this. But yeah, so disappointing. I'm sure Astrobiotic is very upset. There's another one launching very soon. This will be, I believe, on a Falcon, so that should be a little bit more of a known quantity. That's the Intuitive Machines lander, so we'll see if they have any more luck. But very difficult task, and both these companies have never done it before. So I think both of them would have a tough time of it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue with this presentation. I mean, they're going to go over it anyway in a few minutes, but yeah, all the components. This slide we kind of saw pretty much it's interesting. They're talking about being a prime, and I also loved how they said in the news item, hey Cyberface, how's it going? They did say a $0.5 billion contract instead of 500. It's like, okay, we're thinking in billions now. We're not thinking in millions. So
Yeah.
I think it just goes to show. Hey, Timmy, how's it going? SDA budgets can support.
We're not thinking in millions. So
yeah. I'm sorry.
No problem.
That was me.
That's what I really sound like.
From the voice going like halfway over the planet and back through 3 microphones. Yes.
All right. Oh, and we have a good 125 people watching. So thanks everyone for tuning in. We should be getting to the actual presentation in about 10 minutes, I would think. Rocket Lab expects to continue to support SDA opportunities as both a prime satellite manufacturer and critical component supplier. That's pretty interesting. I think there's going to be future tranches. Again, I haven't looked into the SDA program in too much detail, but yeah, I think there's this is tranche 2, and there might be future opportunities as well. Hey, Liam, thank you so much for joining, and Mark as well. Good to see you. Are you playing the presentation? Yeah, we won't talk very much during the presentation. It should start in about 10 minutes. So, we'll talk a little bit beforehand and talk a little bit after, just give our thoughts. Maybe there'll be some surprise news, but Hey, Johnny, as well. Always a pleasure to have you join in the stream. And then it looks like that's it for the presentation. So it does look pretty straightforward, pretty much like what we thought we were going to hear, at least from the slideshow. There's no like, and one more thing. Some people were saying, oh, maybe they'll talk about the first reusable launcher, something like that, but not seeing it here. Next will be Europe.
Yeah, I'm curious because it didn't make sense to me that they do this investor day. I haven't been following the company long enough, so I have they done this before that they just because I'm like, if it's like, if you look at the slide, I mean, they could have added this to their earnings call, you know? And
yeah, and you know, the earnings call is not that far away either. No. It's interesting. I don't know why they're doing this now. I mean, I wouldn't call it a full investor day, but yeah, I've never had them do this where they're like, we're just going to schedule a conference call to tell you about, I guess they just consider this to be that big of a deal. Maybe like they haven't.
I mean, it was a big deal. I was surprised when I saw the stock price move up 20%. I thought that was not giving, and then we lost it all. Like we're back to
yeah.
And I thought that because I was doing some calculations, and the thing that I don't know is, were they thinking with this when they were projecting their Q1 and Q2 numbers? Probably they were thinking with this, but
yeah, I would think so. That's probably, but I guess it wasn't official, but they were probably
yeah, because this contract gets them quite close to like cash break even, you know. Like I was doing a little bit of math on it, and that's the question, like how much were they thinking with this? I guess we will find out in the next earnings call. But that's, I think, something that weighs on the stock price very much, you know, this question mark of will they need to like, will they run out of money? Is they're still not technically a viable business? And yeah, like this contract was like a proof of concept. It was giving them a lot of money, and I was like, the stock was already so undervalued, and I thought that the 20% was like, the market didn't fully get how significant this was.
So Martin here, I don't think you bought any calls, right, Vince?
No. I'm trying to sell puts. It's because
so I think Martin was maybe a little bit confused, but yeah, I guess he was just asking about your options trade. Yeah, so I was looking into options too lately. I made a video about, talking about it recently. I was looking at, you know, potentially selling some puts, but I didn't. I thought the stock was maybe going to drop a little more, and I was kind of waiting for that, but it just hasn't. So I know my fiance is probably a little frustrated as well that it hasn't dropped back down like she was expecting. Yeah, I think they're just doing the call. Here's Johnny. They're just doing the call so we can have something to cover on YouTube.
Exactly.
So do you have any predictions short term? Is it going to go up because of this announcement? Is it going to follow the trend that good news makes the stock go down?
I have no clue. I have no clue. It's so funny that now that I looked into this options game a little bit, because it's such a luxury, you know, that when you buy for the long term, it's like you just buy, and then you're not trying to predict the stock. You're saying like in 10 years or 5 years, it will be much higher than now, right?
Yeah.
And then with the put option, you kind of have to sort of time the market, because it's like if you sell the put option, like, yeah. So you kind of have to time the market. And I was like, how? Like
it's
this
very...
stock is so irrational. Like you get good news and then the stock goes down. You have, for no reason, you have like 10+% days.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, you definitely need to get a good price. Jed Luke, I believe he's also a channel member. Welcome, Jed, was saying that he's holding January 2026 leaps. I was looking into those myself, and those were one of the ones I was like waiting for the stock to go down a little bit. Maybe I was a little naive thinking that it would over the short term, but we'll see. We'll see what happens after this. I'd definitely be interested in leaps, you know, as long out as possible. I was said previously, if I were to buy call options for the long term, I want to make sure I'm confident they'll be profitable by the time they come to term. So I think 2026 would be a good time for that.
What is the strike price that you're looking at on the leaps?
Me?
Like, would you buy in the money or would you buy out of the money?
Probably slightly out of the money. I mean, you have to look at what premium you're getting or how much you're paying for each one. Yeah. So
Yeah,
I hadn't fully
it's
decided on that either, but
yeah, it's
maybe.
funny because that one for me is I feel so risky, but
Well, it is risky. Like I wouldn't, put a ton of money into it, but I also thought it'd be fun just for the sake of the channel. Even if you have small amounts of money, we can track it together and be like, oh, look, the stock moved 20%. Meanwhile, the option moved, 80% or something. And, everyone can get a kick out of that.
The put option that I was trying to sell, it's funny, like the stock went up today, so that was bad for the option, but the stock went up like 3% and then the option lost like 2.70% from its value. And I'm like, how is that? Like the option was like doing better than the stock,
Sorry, say that again. So your option didn't.
Yeah, like the one that I was trying to sell, like Interactive Brokers is showing like how much the price of the option changed today.
Yeah,
and because it's I'm trying to sell a January like 1 year ahead, like January 25 put, like it's not very liquid, right?
Yeah,
and then on Interactive Brokers it says that the change today on the option was like 2.7% down, whereas the stock went up like 3%.
right.
So it's like the stock was like the option was less volatile than the stock, which is really weird.
So Johnny is saying that it's live. I'm still seeing the intro with intro music on the broadcast, so I'm not too sure why.
Maybe you can refresh.
I'll give it a try. Oh yeah, that was odd. Okay, looks like we're still got intro music though. You know what's annoying about this intro music? I don't know if you've ever noticed it. It always.
By the way, Dave, I don't think we hear it. I don't hear any intro music. I think it's only in your.
Oh.
Maybe the audience can chime in if they.
Yeah, let me try resharing the screen here. Yeah, so Francisco's hear it now? Great. Okay. Maybe it didn't check that off. Now you guys can all hear the wonderful elevator music, which causes me to get demonetized every time I do this. It's all good though. By the way, we do have 174 viewers. Thank you guys so much for watching. And if anyone is not a subscriber, I definitely appreciate it. Any subs, trying to get towards 4,000 subscribers. Pretty excited to be getting close to that mark.
Very well done. How many do you have on Twitter?
Oh gosh, I only started really using Twitter much at all over the past like couple months, really maybe 3-4 months. So I've got like 500. But yeah, my Twitter count is very low, which probably doesn't help me because I think before I've tweeted people asking for interviews and stuff, and they're probably just like, who is this guy with 100 followers? I don't care about him. But yeah. So I have been trying to do a little bit more on that end. So I think my Twitter should also be in the description of this video if you guys want to check that out as well. And I think I did forget to put your link, Vince. But if you guys check link Vince is Bullish on YouTube and find his channel, he does a lot of great stuff on Rocket Lab, Palantir, and some other companies.
Hello, and welcome to the Rocket Lab discussion of Government Constellation Award. All lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. After the speaker's remarks, there will be a question and answer session. And if you would like to ask a question during this time, simply press *1 on your telephone keypad. I will now turn the conference over to Colin Canfield, Head of Investor Relations. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. We're glad to have you join us for today's conference call. Before we begin the call, I'd like to remind you that our remarks may contain forward-looking statements that relate to the future performance of the company and these statements are intended to qualify for the safe harbor protection from liability established by the Private Securities Litigation Reform Act. Any such statements are not guarantees of future performance, and factors that could influence our results are highlighted in today's press release, and others are contained in our filings with the Securities and Exchange Commission. Such statements are based upon information available to the company at the date hereof and are subject to change or future developments. Except as required by law, the company does not undertake any obligations to update these statements. I'd also like to note that due to quiet period dynamics, we ask that analysts and members of the media limit their questions to today's announcement, as we will not be able to provide any views or updates related to our Q4 2023 results or Q1 2024 financial guidance at this time. This call is also being webcast with a supporting presentation and a replay and copy of the presentation available on our website. And I'll turn the call over to our Chief Executive Officer, Peter Beck.
Thanks very much, Colin. So I'm very pleased to confirm that we've been selected by the Space Development Agency to be the prime contractor to develop and operate 18 spacecraft in support of SDA's Tranche 2 transport layer. At over $500 million in contract value, the award is our largest contract in the company's history. It affirms our vertical integration strategy across space systems and establishes Rocket Lab's position as a leading satellite prime contractor, providing supply chain diversity to the Department of Defense and commercial constellations alike. Turning to the award specifics, the contract comprises a $489 million base plus $26 million of incentives and options. The bulk of the work is expected to be carried out through the next 3 years, with the satellites due to launch in 2027. Rocket Lab will then handle operations of the constellation on orbit through to 2030, potential operations work carrying us through to 2033. As prime contractor, Rocket Lab will lead the design, development, production, test, and operations of the satellite, including procurement and integration of the payload subsystems. In a demonstration of a vertical integration strategy at work, all 18 spacecraft will feature subsystems and components built in-house by Rocket Lab, including solar panels, structures, star trackers, reaction wheels, radios, flight software, avionics, and launch dispensers. The constellation will be built at our Advanced Spacecraft Development and Manufacturing Complex in Long Beach, California. With the addition of the T2 beta contract, we now have more than 40 spacecraft in backlog. We view the T2 beta as a foundational win for Rocket Lab for several reasons. One, it confirms Rocket Lab's ability to capture high quality, high value work thanks to our previous investments in the space systems business, both organic and inorganic. Two, it significantly de-risks the growth and earnings outlook of our space systems businesses, as well as the overall company. And three, the work scope confirms Rocket Lab's role as a disruptive, commercially developed new government prime. We will look forward to cement our position as a prime with this win and ongoing new opportunities. The Rocket Lab solves hard problems, and shedding a little bit more color on the mission itself, SDA's beta constellation will serve as the backbone for the joint all-domain command and control infrastructure, providing low latency data transport, encryption, and connectivity for a range of government mission sets, including beyond line of sight targeting, missile warning, and missile tracking, and advanced missile threats. These are the type of missions that Rocket Lab is extremely good at, developing reliable technology that customers know they can rely on to deliver mission success for the nation. From leading humanity's push back to the moon with the Capstone mission for NASA, to powering James Webb Telescope, to designing and delivering fast and affordable hypersonic launch capabilities, right through to building Globalstar's communication constellation, Rocket Lab's launch and spacecraft solutions are key enablers for the global space market. We're honoured that SDA has placed their trust in us to deliver a highly capable spacecraft for such a critically important constellation, and we look forward to working with the SDA team in the coming weeks, months, and years as we bring these spacecraft to life. For that, I'd like to turn over the call to Adam Spice, who can discuss our space system strategy and some of the dynamics to consider with respect to the budget outlook.
Thanks, Peter. This contract is the culmination of our thoughtful and deliberate investment in our space systems business, or why we've either acquired key space technologies or invested in them organically as a means to deliver industry-leading quality, performance, and schedule. In terms of these 18 satellites specifically, our constellation award includes all of the subcomponents we've previously acquired or developed internally, including solar, star trackers, reaction wheels, radios, launch dispensers, and other critical technologies. We view this as a fundamental proof point of our investment strategy, as well as the government's pivot to commercially develop space programs that are able to deliver best value for the customer and for taxpayers. Now, turning to some of the related budget dynamics to consider, we view not just this award, but SDA's program portfolio as a whole as a generational growth opportunity for Rocket Lab. As you can see from U.S. government budget forecasts that can be found in the Space Force's program acquisition materials, it's clear that government budgets cannot just grow quickly with billions of dollars of opportunities, but that the outlook is increasing year on year as U.S. government continues to pivot to commercially developed satellite architectures. In addition to Beta, we view Rocket Lab as uniquely positioned to compete for and support other key programs beyond transport. While we prefer to take on the role of prime contractor as a means to have more control over cost and schedule certainty, we'll also continue to be a critical partner to the broader space ecosystem as we alleviate key supply chain constraints, such as currently the case for space-grade solar capacity. And with that, I'd like to turn the call over to the operator for Q&A.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question, please press *1 on your telephone keypad. If you wish to withdraw your question, simply press *1 again. Your first question comes from the line of Eric Rasmussen of Stifel. Your line is open.
Yeah, thanks, and congrats on the award. You may have, Adam, you may have sort of alluded to this, but how should we think about this award and the business with SDA in the context of your space systems business? I mean, are you planning on targeting all the other remaining SDA tranches, or how selective are you planning on being for that?
Yeah, Eric, we're always selective in the programs that we pursue. I think it's no different in the case of SDA. I think we believe that we've got some unique capabilities that can execute on specific elements of their overall program. And we do see there are other opportunities where we can add value to SDA. So we're certainly not stopping at Beta. We'll be continuing to make proposals on other elements of their initiatives. And we also think there are, similar opportunities, outside of SDA within U.S. government programs that we can bring similar kind of innovation and performance to. So yeah, we're definitely not stopping at Beta, but I think this is a huge validation of the fact that these opportunities are real for Rocket Lab, and we can do meaningful capture against those.
Gotcha. And so the Gamma portion just went out for solicitation, and I think responses are due in a couple of weeks. Can you confirm that you had put in a bid for that as well?
It's not our practice to comment on things that we've kind of not proactively announced. So we're not going to respond to Gamma at this point, but just, there'll be more to come on that in the future.
And can you comment on how big the satellites are? You're obviously providing the buses, and there's a lot of integration of all the components and subsystems that you've built and acquired. But are you also then supplying any of the payload? Thanks.
Yeah, I'll let Pete take that one.
Yeah. So, hey, Eric, as prime contractor, we are getting a number of, suppliers, and to support the mission. So, as I think everybody's aware that, Rocket Lab currently doesn't, provide necessarily payload. So, we have a good, supplier for those as a prime contractor. And the spacecraft in kind of scale, it's not dissimilar in size to the SDA Global Star platform. So sort of a few hundred kgs, multi-meter wingspan for solar array.
Gotcha. And maybe my last one, Adam, this for you. What sort of gross margins are you targeting for this program? And then maybe as it relates to future business with SDA, what are the thresholds you need to preserve your internal targets?
Yeah, so we've set out what our longer term non-GAAP gross margin targets are for for launch and for space systems, and I would say that this contract kind of fits within the overall modeling that we've done. I mean, if you look at across our portfolio of space systems offerings, we've got some materially, I would say, higher gross margin parts of our business, which are more, I would say, related to the merchant components that we sell into the market. Again, those usually come at pretty attractive gross margins. And then when we go to these larger total platform solution sales, we typically kind of model a lower gross margin profile than the merchant component sales, but overall they come to a kind of that blended gross margin target that we've long talked about, which is north of 40 points. But again, I think on the overall model for space systems doesn't get changed by this. Is actually supportive of this. Again, I think, but the overall gross margin is going to be highly dependent upon the mix of merchant component sales versus these more strategic large platform opportunities, which do come at a lower gross margin.
Great, thanks. Congrats.
Thank you.
Your next question comes from the line of Suji DeSilva with Roth MKM. Your line is open.
Hi, Peter. Hi, Adam. Congratulations on the win here. Maybe first on the revenue, the 489 for the deal size. How is that going to flow through, Adam? Is that leaning toward when the satellites are delivered, or is it relatively even throughout the 3-year lifespan of the work?
I wouldn't say it's even, but it will be recognized over the life of the work. So it's basically going to be modeled on and recognized on a kind of cost of completion. So yes, there are milestones. Milestones, for the most part, drive kind of cash collection and invoicing. Revenue recognition is driven by the amount of effort expended towards completing the program. So it'll be more linear, we suspect, than what we've experienced to date on the Globalstar MDA contract, but not entirely dissimilar. And this contract, like almost any other program like it, is more back-end loaded. So again, more linear than the Globalstar MDA, but still back-end loaded. We do expect some revenue recognition from the program in 2024, but we'll speak more to that, likely on our upcoming Q4 results call in February.
Okay. And then the other question I have is on the capacity for satellite manufacturing. I'm just thinking you have 2 programs now, more in the pipeline potentially. How should we think about the kind of capacity you have for building, X number of satellites per year, or is that not the right way to think about it? It's more program specific. How should we think about your capacity build out?
I can take that one, Adam.
Yeah.
So, we've made pretty significant investments in our manufacturing capabilities. So, we recently moved all of the engine manufacturing over to the engine development center, the Virgin Orbit old building, and freed that whole facility up, Long Beach facility up for the satellite manufacturing. So there's some small capex investments required, but largely that's all in place. And we have 2 Mars missions, 4 Varda missions, and of course the all of the Globalstar MDA. So we've really been scaling that over the last couple of years as it is.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Your next question comes from the line of Edison Yu with Deutsche Bank. Your line is open.
Hey, congrats on the win. Just a follow-up on the last question. Are we expecting the investment or expenses to have to ramp up a little bit before the rev rec picks up, or how do we think about that aspect?
Yeah, Edison, I think they're largely going to be in concert with each other. So we're not expecting like a large upfront, preloaded R&D element of this contract. It's pretty much going to go, pretty much in tandem with the rev rec. So yeah, it's from that perspective, it should be pretty coupled and linear.
Gotcha. And then maybe can you provide a color on the bidding process? What kind of key factors do you think gave you the win? I know you highlighted vertical integration, and maybe were there any learnings that you took away from Globalstar that you sort of applied to this that gave you a better position, better edge?
Yeah, I can take a crack at that one, Adam. So I think there's a couple of key kind of themes there. One is supply chain diversity. SDA and the US government in general is looking for more and more supply chain diversity, especially in non-traditional commercial providers. Our execution history, of course, the type of spacecraft that we build are not trivial, simple spacecraft. All of it, if you look across all of the spacecraft and build, whether it's going to Mars or the global state NDA work, they're all very, very difficult spacecraft. So that's where we kind of excel. And then our ability to partner with really discriminating payloads and bring payload partners along that provide solutions that at the end of the day, that's where the rubber hits the road.
Great. Thank you.
Your next question comes from the line of Jason Gursky with Citi. Your line is open.
Hey, good afternoon, guys. Just really quickly, can you talk a little bit about the scope of development that will need to be done on this relative to the overall program? And then maybe comment a little bit about where that development work has to happen. Is it software, hardware? Kind of just describe the scope of the problem that you're all going to be solving as you go through this work.
Yeah, I mean, Jason, I'd probably describe it in the fact that this is kind of an iteration on a semi-standard bus platform for us. So from the bus perspective, we're able to leverage a lot of the learnings from similar kind of complexity programs like the SDA Global Star program. So for us, we're starting to get good at combining these elements into kind of, there's no such thing as a truly standardized bus, but in as close as you can to a standardized platform. So that, as far as that kind of scope, diversity or difference, that's not tremendous. Obviously, integrating the payload and that's where all of the kind of the magic sauce is, and making sure all those payload elements do as they should, and the spacecraft operates as a complete system. Because as you notice from the award, we're not just building a bus; we're providing the entire solution and even operating it. So that's where the scope's a little bit different for us in the past.
I think, Jason, it's also it's probably important to notice that we're also exercising a lot of similar elements of the supply chain for this as with other programs. So there's a lot of I'd say synergies across kind of what we've done on other programs. So we're not having to reinvent the wheel. So a lot of kind of standing IP that's been developed not only for our internal supplied subsystems, but also from our subsystem vendors. And so I think that helps de-risk the program and really kind of minimize the amount of kind of upfront R&D that I think was kind of alluded to by maybe a question from Suji earlier.
Right. Okay, great. And then on the payload itself, have you named the supplier? Apologies if I missed that. And have you worked with this particular payload or this provider in the past?
Yeah, look, we haven't named the payload provider yet, Jason. I'm sure that will come out in the fullness of time. And I think that is one of the key fundamental elements of being a good prime, is building those good relationships with those payload providers. So that, I guess, out of all of this program, that's the thing that I think is probably significant and important here is Rocket Lab has moved into a prime position rather than typically more typically at least a bus provider or elements of the spacecraft. This is Rocket Lab from beginning, very beginning to the very last bit of data that comes down from the spacecraft in many years' time.
Right. Okay, great. That's helpful. And then maybe Adam, last one from you since you brought it up, but or maybe it was in response to a question, but the pipeline. You just talk a little bit more about maybe the size of the backlog that the pipeline that you're all chasing, and you emphasized in your prepared remarks a little bit more emphasis on government work, and we all look at the same budgets that you do, and it's pretty clear the SDA budgets are going up and to the right. So maybe what is that? What is addressable to you all, I guess, in those government budgets that you're talking about? So how big's the pipeline there? And then on the commercial side, maybe just kind of give us an update on what you're seeing in the commercial market, and are there opportunities there as well in addition to the work? And I'll drop the line. Thank you.
Yeah, Jason. So as far as the pipeline, we normally don't talk too much about kind of size of pipeline, because that we kind of leave that to folks that haven't quite established the ability to kind of close on programs. We just speak to size of opportunities. So I would say that it is fair to say that we have proposals out on sizable programs that span the different agencies within the U.S. government, and also some commercial opportunities as well. So our pipeline is large. We're chasing even larger opportunities than are represented by this specific contract. So I think as far as what's actionable, as we're kind of within that overall U.S. government budget, I would say it just got a lot larger, right? So I think this was our first time that we could close on as a prime, as Pete mentioned, and so I think at this point we believe that we're able to address the most complex, largest contracts that are available for bid. I think this firmly puts us in the same peer group as much larger, more established government primes. And again, just highlights that the government believes we have the capabilities to execute on these very strategic programs. And on the commercial side, we are absolutely going after similarly sized, in some cases, larger opportunities to be prime for very complex missions. I would say that the government programs are a little bit easier to, I would say nothing's easy to predict, but kind of have a little bit more confidence in, because all these commercial programs, for the most part, there's kind of financing risk involved with those. So I think that one of the reasons why we focused a lot on landing this particular SDA program and other government programs is, even though there's never 100% budget certainty, even within those U.S. government programs, there's a lot more certainty, and we really want to focus on building a high quality backlog and pipeline that basically isn't subject to the financing volatilities that have been experienced in this market over the last couple of years. So we do have a diversity of opportunities we're chasing. They're large in scale. I think this is just kind of a validation of kind of the types of things that we can go pursue and actually close on.
That's great. Thank you, guys.
Your next question comes from the line of Garrett Rame with Aviation Week. Your line is open.
Hi, yes, this is Garrett with Aviation Week. I just wanted some clarification. This satellite bus, perhaps you said it, but excuse me, this is the same one as the Global Star satellite bus? And what's the satellite bus's name? I mean, trying to get some understanding of what product this is.
Yeah, hey Garrett. It's a derivative of the Global Star bus. It's not the same. It's a derivative of, and I think your confusion is with our naming scheme is well understood, and I think we'll be able to resolve some of that shortly.
So just to clarify, there's no name as of now for this product, no publicly announced name.
There's no publicly announced name for this product. That's correct.
Okay, thanks.
Your next question comes from the line of Andre Madrid with Bank of America. Your line is open.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for taking my question. You talked a lot about the importance of vertical integration and winning the award. And with that thought in mind, how should we think about the prospect of Neutron potentially winning work on the launch side of this SDA work?
Yeah, hey, Andre. Well, I mean, obviously, launch is yet to be bid, but it's certainly within a time frame that we hope that Neutron would be available and certified for such launches. So we certainly will be putting Neutron forward as a launch, as a potential launch provider for this program.
Gotcha. I'll leave it to one. I think everyone took care of everything else. So thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Your next question comes from the line of Micah Maidenberg with WSJ. Your line is open.
Hey, thank you very much. Hey, Peter, just to step back a little, this is the biggest ever contract for Rocket Lab, this deal. It's in space systems. You've already got a bigger backlog as of, the third quarter than launch there. Could you just explain a little bit, having landed this, how you're thinking about balancing the space systems business with launch, just given the work ahead for SDA and, the other space systems opportunities you guys have talked about on the call? Thanks.
Yeah, no, thanks, Michael. That's a great question. So, I mean, the two kind of elements of the business run relatively independent to each other, although we do have some fungibility of resources that will kind of push and pull across different programs. But, space systems is almost, like I say, it runs as a different people, different facilities in general. So not really, affecting, for example, the Neutron development program, and it's different facilities as well. But I think your question is actually important on a couple of other factors. We always said that the goal here is to ultimately provide, services from space, and you need, in order to do that, you need launch, you need to be able to build spacecraft at scale, and you need to be able to deploy and operate those. And I think this win is it's great for a number of reasons, but one, I think it really proves the model as well. Not only does it prove the vertical integration model, it proves that if you have all these supply chain elements internally, you can have supply chain certainty and diversity. But it also proves that ultimately, if you can build spacecraft at scale, complex spacecraft at scale, and you have your own launch vehicle, then you can play in a much bigger pie. And the fact that we're not just building the spacecraft, but we're going to be operating them, kind of further goes to what we've been saying all along, which is ultimately we're going to provide service infrastructure from orbit. And this is just, the next methodical step along that journey.
But just one quick follow-up, Peter. I mean, do you think having Neutron in development helped you win this contract? I know you're going to put it forward, as you said a moment ago, because that's not part of this deal right now.
No.
Neutron.
No, I don't. No, I don't think that had a meaningful element to this contract win. I mean, we're evaluated on the spacecraft elements, not launch elements.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thanks a lot.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question, it is star one on your telephone keypad. Your next question comes from the line of Aria Alamalhode with TechCrunch. Your line is open.
Hi, congratulations on this contract. There's been much talk on the call about vertical integration. I'm curious, Peter, are there any other subsystem components that you think are sort of ripe for acquisition or that remain the biggest bottlenecks to building spacecraft at scale? Thanks.
Yes, and to answer your question, Aria, yes, I think there are, and we'll continue to be opportunistic in those potential acquisitions, but also we continue to invest heavily in developing some of our own capabilities in those areas. So I think the large successful space companies in the future are going to be able to do a lot of that stuff in-house at scale, and we continue to invest in those things. I guess the following question that people ask, well, what are they? And I'm kind of hesitant to go into too many details, on this call, but there are some obvious elements that, if you pull apart a spacecraft, are still Rocket Lab purchases from other folks, and that are supply chain constrained. So we'll look to further de-risk those either through acquisitions or organic development coming in.
And your next question is a follow-up from Andre Madrid of Bank of America. Your line is open.
Hey, yes, one follow-up, if I may. If you look at the contract value per SAT relative to the other awardees for Tranche 2, it looks like it's actually higher on a per SAT basis. Is there something unique to the platform or to what you're offering that's driving that discrepancy? I think I did the math and it's about like 28 mil per SAT for you guys versus the others, which are probably high teens, low 20s.
Yeah, I mean, the kind of way to think about this is what the best value for the government. It's a very complex payload in the spacecraft, and of course you have some economies of scale. We're talking, not dozens and dozens of satellites. So there is some economies of scale that kick in when you sort of get a 25 plus spacecraft. So down at the number that we're building, you lose some economies of scale. But I would say it's a cross between that and also, is a deeply capable spacecraft.
I think, Andre, it also, I think each bidder and each person that goes after this has different things they bring to the table. I think the fact that, clearly, the government customer here, in this case, valued some of the uniquenesses that we brought to the table. Again, what we strive for is, not just, to be cost competitive, but also to de-risk kind of program timelines and deliverables. So, I think, everyone's in a different position to kind of realize value based on what they bring to the table. And I think in this case, we brought sufficient value to the table in areas that the customer really valued in order for us to win the award. So, we're always looking at ways to bring down cost. And I think, as Pete mentioned, scale is one of those things. And as we continue to kind of go after, larger and more awards from these types of customers, I think we'll be able to bring more of those synergies to our bids and again, hopefully, let the customer realize kind of the lowest total cost and highest quality platform.
Got you. That's all very helpful. Thanks, guys.
There are no further questions at this time. This will conclude today's conference call. We thank you for joining. You may now disconnect your lines.
Was this lady an LLM, an AI?
Sorry, what was that?
I said this lady who was speaking, was she an LLM or an AI?
Not yet. Maybe sometime in the near future, though.
She sounded so robotic. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, they always do, the hosts, but
yeah.
I do agree with a lot of comments, though. Peter was a little hard to hear today, and you'd think by now, I think we have to get off conference calls and get on on computers, because
2024.
Exactly. After hours looks like we're up 1.8%. Nothing big. Where is it? I can pull it up. Yeah, I'll just let you guys know it's up 1.8%. Okay, so any biggest takeaways you had from that discussion?
I mean, one super big takeaway for me is that they're chasing similar size and even bigger contracts, both in the government and commercial. And I was like, this is going to be very good when those contracts land.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I agree. I kind of made a note of that as well. You can't assume they'll land just because they're bidding on them. But very exciting, when they're talking about even bigger than this. And this was already so much larger than anything they've had before. So, and on both the commercial and government side of things.
It's so funny. After this call, do you think this was necessary, this call, or they could have just included it as part of the earnings call, spend an extra 5-10 minutes?
Yeah, it probably wasn't necessary. I guess it's nice that they did it and we got some more info specifically on this, whereas in the earnings call, there'd be a lot more questions on a variety of topics, and we might not have gotten as much specifically on this contract. But yeah, they probably didn't have to do this. Were you a little disappointed that there wasn't anything more to it? Like, were you expecting any surprises or other announcements?
Nah, I don't know. It's hard to answer. I mean, it's really weird. I'm trying to sell puts, right? So
Yeah.
I want the stock price to somehow go down, and but I feel that this was like pretty neutral. They didn't. Yeah, I feel like there was nothing like that we didn't suspect or
Yeah.
kind of. Yeah, I don't fully get why they didn't just include this in the earnings call.
Yeah, I'd say it was positive, but it wasn't, we all pretty much knew it was going to be for the SDA. Some interesting information, but definitely nothing like earth shattering that they had to do this. I also thought it was interesting, the question on the imbalance of launch versus their space systems backlog, because now, especially after this, space systems probably represents, I would say, like 90% of the backlog. So like, does that concern you at all that they haven't, it seems like launch is really not keeping pace with the growth of the space systems, which is not what I thought I'd be saying. But
yeah, I mean, it doesn't. I think that the space systems is maybe a more stable business than the rocket launch. So I'm quite happy to see that they're diversifying. And I was thinking about making a video today that it's so interesting that the rocket launch is a very bad business, and only having space systems is a very bad business. But somehow, like, having the two, it really opens up a lot of possibilities that it becomes like an amazing business. And yeah,
I think space systems can be an okay business, but launch for sure is so difficult. Like, spend so much money getting scaled up, and then things explode and it takes so long. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't invest in Rocket Lab if they were only launch. I've said that several times. So,
yeah,
overall, I'm pretty happy with the space systems growth, and all this is good because it's been so difficult to kind of model how fast space systems will grow, and this will kind of help out with that. But we'll have to see. And yeah, Prime, as Apocalypto says, them being like a prime contractor now for the government is probably what they wanted to take away from this as the biggest takeaway. At least that's what I think.
Yeah, you know how like in 2023 there was this conference call when it was like, how many times did they use the word AI? And and in this conference call, it's like, how many times did they use the word prime? It's like, we're prime.
Should everyone take a drink every time they say prime?
Yeah. Exactly.
What else? Do I have any other notes? Yeah, so biggest takeaway for me was just going after those biggest contracts for the backlog. I thought it was pretty cool how they talk about, they don't really bother to talk about their pipeline. They said they kind of leave that for like less developed companies. And that just made me smile, because every time I watch a Planet Labs earnings call, they just talk about their pipeline, and they're like, we have such a big pipeline, guys. We just have to convert on those opportunities. And Rocket Lab here is like, we don't talk about our pipeline. We'll tell you when we've signed them. So interesting divergence in philosophies there.
Yeah, but it's true. I mean, it's like saying, we have 2 million reservations for the Cybertruck, and it's like, okay, but how many is going to order? How much can you deliver? And it's
it's not real for a lot of these, but hopefully one or two of these bids that they have in for potential government or commercial contracts do get taken. That would be pretty exciting. Just going to say, by the way, guys, if anyone has any other questions in the comments, happy to discuss them as well. If there's something anyone wants to submit.
But by the way, they like one of the analysts asked him about the gross margins of this one, and he said something that I'm not sure I understood. I want to see if you picked up on the same thing.
Yeah.
Because he said that, like, he was giving this very complicated answer that, like, we modeled out our things, and like when you sell a lot of satellites, it's a bit smaller. and then we have this target of 40 points. And I'm like, does he mean 40% on the 40 points? And this is like a bit lower than that.
I didn't catch that, but yeah, if he said 40 points, I would assume that to mean 40%. I might have to go back and listen. And then he was talking about like, you know, margins of supplying components versus doing these contracts. And I think he might have misspoke, or maybe he made it sound like the components were actually more like a better margin, but I think he just wasn't very clear on that, because I'm pretty sure, you know, deals like this have much better margins than just supplying reaction wheels or what have you.
Yeah.
So we did have a question here asking if you think the ULA launch will affect Rocket Lab at all. Do you have any thoughts on that?
It's so funny because when I woke up this morning and I saw the launch and it succeeded, I got this like, oh my God, this is like a new competitor that I wasn't thinking with. And then I realized that they have a huge backlog for like, they have like, what is it? Like a 40-50 launch backlog, which basically means that they cannot, for like 5 years, they cannot sell to new customers. So
yeah, I mean, we'll have to see how fast they can build them, but I mean, you're not reusing them, so yeah. And they need those engines from Blue Origin. Blue Origin needs the engines as well for their new Glenn. So, and will Blue Origin end up buying them? That'll be interesting. The thing is, now that it's launched successfully, it should be, you know, a much more attractive asset. So maybe people are going to be more interested and we'll get more action on that front. I'm not too worried about Rocket Lab competing with Vulcan. Like, I don't know, the vehicles are just very different sizes. Vulcan's pretty much not reusable until they get their smart system figured out. But even then, that's only really the engines and some systems. So I wouldn't be too concerned about Vulcan competing on a cost basis.
Yeah.
Sometimes you see like government contracts come out and they say, well, cost wasn't our main concern. Our main concern was reliability and making sure that it's a reliable vehicle, and ULA wins those deals. But yeah, I'm not too worried about Vulcan.
Yeah, I checked in on their live stream and they were like, yeah, this vehicle has been, I might mess up the numbers, but it was something like this, that we have had it in development for the last 10 years and it builds on like heritage that we already had. So they were like boasting about how little they had to develop on the rocket, because like many of the components are reused from earlier rockets. And I was like, how the F did it take you 10 years? Like,
it's the same thing with the SLS, right? Like they're saying how, it like the original idea, we'll build on the shuttle's architecture and history. Like we'll use those engines. That orange tank is like very similar to what they had with the shuttle, just kind of stretched out. Well, somehow when you do this and try to use existing conditions or equipment and just like change it, it seems like it's harder than starting from scratch sometimes.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah, so I also think so. Yeah, back to this competition thing. So they're backlogged, and all the backlogs, they were already sold, right? So it's not like they're taking away new biddings from Rocket Lab, because their backlog already exists. And I don't think they're cost competitive and they cannot deliver. So if you have companies that need, like startups and commercial companies that cannot wait to burn money 3 years to wait for a rocket, like they have to have a different solution. So
yeah, I think Vulcan will do well probably on the NSSL and some of these government launches. On the commercial side, I wouldn't worry about them too much. They have those Amazon launches, but they're in the different lane as well, mostly, than Rocket Lab would compete in for the NSSL, although they could compete in the lane one as well. But they have a big backlog to execute on. You're right. Well, it has been a little over an hour already. Oh, we only have 6 likes. Oh well. Any hints on upcoming videos you're working on, or any thoughts you have on what you're going to be putting out next?
Yeah, I had a video that I started working on, still on this pounding the table interview, because I think Peter Beck talked about the supply chain. about the space systems and how they were like strategically buying up, like for example, the Solero and the solar panels. And I wanted to go more into that and a little bit fact check what he is saying, because I never heard it explained that well as on that interview that Nico really undersold to us. He was like,
yeah,
it's nothing new. And I still find real gems about that contract, because I mean, to give you an idea, like what he explained in that interview is that there is 3 companies on the planet that supply space grade solar, and Solero was the biggest one of them, and it's like one of the longest like timeline items in missions, right? And then, so let's say that I was thinking that let's say that every company is booked for 2 years ahead, and then Amazon or a new undisclosed company comes and they're like, yeah, let's build a 10,000 10,000 satellite constellation. Then who are they going to go to? It's going to be a complete bottleneck. And then basically Rocket Lab is the only one that can supply with any degree of certainty that, okay, like we can order, we can deliver, and it's on many components too.
Yeah, not just the solar panels. It was an interesting interview. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to Rocket Lab Bears. You mentioned that you would bring on.
Yeah, well, I'm looking for them. I was talking to someone. I'm hoping to set up an interview with someone talking about Neutron, and he's less positive on Neutron than a lot of us are, although he still, of course, likes the space system side of the business. So he's not a full Rocket Lab bear. He's just more of a Neutron bear. But I haven't found too many people out there. It's not really like Tesla, where you have plenty of Tesla bears. I haven't found too many Rocket Lab bears that I can talk to yet. But let me know if anyone knows someone who's an outspoken Rocket Lab critic and would like to tell us why. I'd be interested.
We're on the lookout for Rocket Lab bears.
Yes, we're on the lookout for people who strongly disagree with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I think I'll probably end the stream here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Thank you, Jed, for being the hype man in chat and asking for the likes. If you enjoyed this video, I hope you guys will hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Also, check out Vince's channel at Vince is Bullish and his Twitter as well. And we do Rocket Lab Weekly on his channel every Saturday, so I'll try to make that one next week if we're still doing it. Is that still on the schedule, Vince?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Thanks, guys, for tuning in, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.